The story begins at the court of King Arthur in Camelot during the Christmas time. It was a banquet event that lasted for 2 weeks and a day. During the banquet, it was a pleasant conversation during the day and lively dance program at dusk, so the nobles and all the ladies present were excited. It stood a ray of happiness. Besides, in the castle of Camelot, it was already a custom for them to meet at festivals. And as king and company were coming to the hall, the chorus in the chapel was suddenly quiet. Then a chorus erupted from the countries and cried, "Noi, noi, New Year gift!" And the knights cried next as they pressed forward to offer their presents. And their merrymaking rolled on in this manner until mealtime. When everyone was eating, a terrifying figure was reflected on the door. A man as tall and sturdy as a mountain, and the story described him as a half-giant, but he was handsome, so all his features looked like all good. But what surprised everyone at this time was that he was green from head to toe, including of course the horse he was riding, so all his clothes were indescribable. And Green Knight kissed on Candace's swordless crowded hall toward the top table, because the front table symbolized the best service and the seat of the highest-ranking people. And he did not have the slightest timidity, but did it confidently on the saddle.
And who is governor of this county? I'll be glad to know, and I'll hold a pact.
At the same time, several of the lords were like statues in their seats, left speechless and rigid, not risking a response. In the same time, Arthur, the owner of the house, said to the Green Knight, "I'm ahead of this house. Oh, just light from the saddle and stay a while."
By him, it hated heaven. I'm not here to idle in your hall this evening, but because your clan is so largely porous, and your castle and brotherhood are called the best, the worthiest knights ever known to the world, both in competition and true combat, and since courtesy, I'm intrigued and attracted to your door at this time, and be assured by this holy stand here in my head, that I mean no menace.
Soon after, the Green Knight presented a challenge to everyone.
If a person here present within these premises is a big or blood or red-blooded enough to strike me on stroke and be returned, I shall give him as a gift this gigantic cleaver and an actual be his handle how he likes.
At first, everyone present panic, and the Green Knight left.
So here is the house of Arthur, and where's the fortitude and fearlessness you're so famous for?
However, in the towering reputation of the Round Table, skittle and sculpted by a stranger, that is what a scandal scene. Soon after, the bronze so brave at heard the king step out, once tried to accept the challenge. But the Green Knight did not feel the slightest fear, but still very strict. And with King Arthur's wife Guinevere, Gawain said to the king,
"I stay my calm. This melody must be mine, and I'm the weakest of your warriors and feeblest of wit. Loss of my wife would be least lamented, and if I were not your nephew, and my life would mean nothing. So, such as a foolish affair is unfitting for a king. Being first to come forward, it should fall to me."
Soon after, Gawain got into his feet and moved graciously forward and knelt before Arthur, and taking hold of the axe. At the same time, Arthur held out his hand to give Gawain the blessing of God and hold his faithfulness in heart and first. In addition, he also said to Gawain, "Take care, young cousin, to catch him cleanly. Use for bloody force that you needn't fear the blow," which he threatened to trade in return. Afterwards, Gawain walked towards the Green Knight with his weapon, but none of them were afraid. And the Green Knight spoke, brought at Gawain.
Before we complete, repeat what we have promised, and tell me the truth so I can take it on trust.
At this moment, Green Knight speaks again.
By God, I'm glad the flavor I've perfectly repeat the promise we made, and terms of the contest are crystal clear. And it's bad for one thing. You must solemnly swear that you will seek me yourself.
Soon afterwards, Gawain gripped the axe and hissed it heavenwards, when his left foot firmly on the floor in front, then swing it swiftly toward the bare skin, and the cleanness of the strike cleaved the spinal cord and part the fat and the flesh. Then blood spewed from the wood, and the Green Knight's head rolled around the room. Who was even more surprised. That is, Green Knight did not fall off his horse, but instead reached down and picked up his own hand. Soon after, the Green Knight left the hall, In addition, Arthur and Gawain also decided to hang the axe above the main dais. With the Green Knight gone, the people in the hall started singing and dancing again until the sun went down that day. So the festival finished and a new year follows in eternal sequence, season by season. Autumn in here as the seasons change, the Miklon the moon stand like the season sign, a warning to Gawain to roast himself and ride. But on All Saints' Day, Gawain was still at Arthur's side, and they feast in the net of their noble knights with the revels and riches of the Round Table. Then sorrowfully, after supper, Gawain spoke with his uncle and openly talked of the tree he must take.
Now, Lord of my life, I must ask for your leave. I must set out tomorrow to receive that stroke from the knight in green, and let God be my guide.
Then the guests of Camelot crowded around. At this time, there was a courtly committee approached the king to offer out heartfelt advice to our hero, and said, well, that as Gawain should suffer this strife but offer no stroke in reply. Meanwhile, the knights just quipped.
Why should I shy away? If fate is kind or cruel, men still must try.
Afterwards, Gawain put on his clothes and took out his weapons. And Gawain comes to the king and king's councils and asks the take leave of the ladies and lords. And they escort and kiss him, then commend him to Christ. Meanwhile, Gawain also brought his horse, Gringolet, to its equipment. And the outside of Gawain's shield was embroidered with golden 5-point stars on the red background. It is a symbol that Solomon once set in place, and is taken to this day as a token of fidelity. For the form of the figure is a 5-pointed star, and each line overlaps and linked with the last, so it is ever internal. It suits this soldier in this spotless armor, because Gawain was as good as the purest gold. No vices but virtue, loyalty, and kindness, so bold as badge on both his shout and shield alike. At the same time, it also represents Gawain's set of virtues. After all the equipment and attire was over, Gawain bid farewell to his friend and left the court. Soon after, spiked with the spur, the steed sped away with such force that the firestone sparked underfoot. Outside at the side, they whispered their worry to one another, concerned for their comrade, and said, a pity by Christ, if a lord so noble should lose his life.
To find his equal on earth would be far from easy.
Clever to have acted with caution and care.
Deem him a duke, a title he was due, a leader of men, lord of many lands.
Better let than being battered into oblivion, beheaded by an ogre who had strong pride.
Whoever knew any king to take counsel of a knight in the grip of an engrossing Christmas game.
And volunteers went out in their weepy eyes as gallant Sir Gawain get love from court that day. Gawain then traveled across North Wales and the west coast of England in search of the mysterious Green Church. Along the way, he scraped with serpents and starting wolves and tangles with savages in the forest, or with bows and bears and a wild boar. Winter came soon after, and it was an even worse start. It was almost killed by hail, and he stayed in his armor among the bare rocks, where the meltwater from the snow-capped peaks and the ice hang high above his head outflowed from the chandelier. Finally, on Christmas Eve, a desperate Gawain prayed to the Virgin Mary that he would find a place to attend the Christmas Mass. Next morning, he moves on, and he prayed with heavy heart.
Father, hear me, and Lady Mary, our mother most mild, let me happen on some house where Mass might be heard, and matins in the morning. Meekly I ask, and here I utter my patter, Ave and Creed.
At the same time, Gawain also said,
Be near me in my need.
However, while walking, Gawain saw a beautiful castle, and the location of the castle was positioned in the side of sweeping parkland. At this moment, Gawain also stopped and said gratefully to Jesus and Saint Julian,
A lodging at least, so allowed it, my lord.
Of course, things will never go so smoothly, as this time the gate of the castle is closed, and in Gawain's eyes, this castle appeared like cut from paper because everything here is too perfect. Meanwhile, Gawain said to the guardian outside the castle,
Good morning. Will you go with a message to the lord of this house to let me have a lodging?
Then Gawain went to his way, but came back at once with a group who had gathered to greet the stranger. and the drawbridge came down, and they crossed the ditch and knelt in the frost in front of the knight to welcome this man in a way deemed worthy. Then the gates of the castle opened. Gawain also entered. Afterwards, the owner of the castle came out of his room, greeting him respectfully in the hall, and saying, "You can do whatever you want in my house, whatever you want. You can do what you want." And at this time, Gawain also said,
Oh, thank you so much. May Christ reward you well.
Then the owner of the castle took Gawain to a splendid room, where he provided Gawain with sumptuous food and wine, and introduced Gawain to two women. One is my wife, and the other is a woman. As they chatted, Gawain also spoke to each other about his journey.
My journey from the court of Arthur, king of Camelot, the royal ruler of the Round Table, and I come here at Christmas time quite by chance.
However, as time got late and the dinner was over, Gawain went to sleep. At the beginning of the Christmas morning and for the next day, the people in the castle were still living their days of dancing and drinking, until it got dark and the people in the castle dispersed in different directions. At this time, Gawain also waved goodbye to everyone and refused the proposal of the castle owner to stay longer, because there were 3 days left before the agreement with the Green Knight. In addition, Gawain also explained to the castle's owner,
I must go to find the Green Chapel, otherwise I will be judged a failure.
but the owner just smiled and said, "Stay longer, I'll direct you to your place when the time is right. You all get to the Green Chapel, so give up your grieving. You can bask in the sun in bed and calm down, and the place you need is near, 2 miles at the most away." Then Gawain was giddy with gladness, and declared,
For this more than anything, I thank you thoroughly, and shall work to do well at whatever you wish. Until that time, attending every task.
However, the Lord suddenly shouted to Gawain, "You have sworn to serve me, whatever I instruct. Will you hold to this oath right here and now?"
You may trust my tongue, for within these walls I am servant to your will.
At this time, the owner of the castle said to Gawain in a warm tongue, "You will worry and worn, harrowed with hunger, harrowed by tiredness, yet join in my reveling regularly every night. You relax as you like, lie in your bed until mass tomorrow, then go to your meal where my wife will be waiting. And at dawn I will rise and ride to hunt with horse and hound." Soon after, the gracious knight agreed, and bending low, he bowed. In addition, the Lord also made a bet to Gawain. "What I win in the wood will be yours, and what you gain while I gone, you will give to me."
I am agreed.
Not only that, before the party was about to end, the two of them repeated their agreement again. With the arrival of a new day, the owner and his guests get up before sunrise to go out hunting, and they also set out with the hunt. And once they reached their destination, they began to hunt in various ways to catch wild animals, such as the blue three longs, bear nose to a din of the bay and the barking, and any dog which ventured at will whipped back into the line by a hungry hunter. But with the roar of animals, the other beasts were shaking. At the same time, the deer in the valley rushed to the high ground, but they were held off by the ring of beaters who bellowed boisterously, because there is a law made by the Lord of the Land, that is, it is forbidden to harm stags. But the heights were held with hollers and whips, and the din drove the dust to spring for the dales. Then the eye can see that the air is all arrows. All across the forest they flashed and flickered, beating through heights with their bold heads. Then they bled and died on the shore, the hound chasing after them, and those animals which escaped the aim of the archers were still from the stuff down to rivers. Soon after, they also dispatched with speed and force. At this time, Gawain was still lying on his bed and dozing off, but at the same time he heard a voice slowly approaching. That was the master's wife. At this time, Gawain felt nervous and lying back he assumed the shape of sleep. And the owner's wife also slowly sat down beside Gawain's bed and waited for him to wake up. Meanwhile, Gawain felt that the arrival of this lady might be intentional, so he said to himself,
Instead of these skills, I should openly ask what her actions imply.
So he stared and stretched, turned on his side, lifted his eyelids, and looking alarmed, across himself hurriedly with his hand, as if saving his life. And the owner's wife also teased Gawain.
Good morning, Sir Gawain. You sleep so soundly, one might sidle in here.
Then Gawain happily said,
Good morning, madam. I'll contentedly attend whatever task you set, and in serving your desire I shall seek your mercy, which seems my best plan in the circumstance.
At the same time, Gawain asked the lady to put on his clothes first, but the lady refused, and disapprovingly said,
Because I know your name, the knight Sir Gawain, famous through all realms, whichever role he rides, whose princely honor is highly praised amongst lords and ladies and everyone alike.
Not only that, the two of them continued to joke, and at this point the lady said,
You are free to have my all. Do with me what you will. I will come just as you call and swear to serve you well.
But such words were inappropriate in front of a personal Gawain, so Gawain refused to the lady one by one. At the same time, Gawain said,
Madam, may Mary reward you. In good faith, I have found your fairness noble. Some fellows are prized for the feast they perform. I heartily deserve to receive such respect. It is you who is genuinely joyful and generous.
Then the lady replied,
Contrary, if I were the richest woman in the world, with precious pearls in my hand, who could bargain and buy the best men? Then, sir, all the signs you show me kindness, practice, and refined appearance, no one on this planet will be chosen before you.
At this time, the lady still looked at Gawain with lovely eyes, but Gawain still kept elegant and cautious. When the lady got up to leave, she laughed and said,
May the Lord repay you for your prize performance, but I know that Gawain could never be your name.
The knight nervously asked, for fear that something was wrong with his behavior.
The real Gawain would never let a lady leave his chamber without taking a kiss.
And after Gawain allowed a kiss, the lady left. He dresses immediately and goes to hear mass, then spend the afternoon with the host wife and the old man. Meanwhile, the lord and his men hunt deer all day. As night falls, hunters begin to skin animals, separating meat and skin from the carcasses. And the lord kept the agreement between him and Gawain, and divided the venison he obtained in the hunt to Gawain. And Gawain also kept the agreement to give the lord a kiss from the lady in return. And the next day went like this. The next morning, the lord went out hunting again, and this time he brought back a white boar. The lord still kept the agreement and divided the white boar to Gawain. And Gawain kissed the lord twice this time in return, because today the lady kissed him twice. It was until the third day that the lord hugged a fox, and Gawain also got 3 kisses and a mysterious green belt from the lady. At this time, the lady also revealed a secret about that green belt to Gawain.
The belt can save the wearer from death.
So Gawain was also interested in accepting the belt. However, when he exchanged with the lord what he got today, Gawain did not tell the lord that he had obtained the green belt, but only gave the lord 3 kisses. As the time passed, Gawain got up in the morning to look for the Green Church, because today was the last day of his appointment with Green Knight. But at this time, Gawain also felt a lot of pressure, because he did not tell the lord about the green belt. Then Gawain put on the gorgeous clothes and armor, and at this time, he did not forget to wear the belt of immunity from death obtained from the lord's wife. And meanwhile, he looked as he did when he first left Camelot. Then hastily rode his horse Gringolet to find the Green Church. But before leaving the castle, Gawain startlingly blessed the castle and prayed to Christ to bless it from harm. After that, Gawain and the person in charge of showing him the way to Green Church also set up on the road. Along the way, they scrambled out benches where branches were bare, came out cliff fast where the cold clings. Ever at this time, the guy who accompanied with Gawain to Green Church told Gawain about the horrors here.
No one had ever survived the encounter with the Green Knight.
And the guy also slightly talked to Gawain.
If you turn around and leave now, I won't tell anyone.
But at the same time, Gawain also replied,
Thank you for your concern, but I refuse to be a coward, so I will continue to move forward.
Then the guy said,
I wish you all the best.
After that, he left there as quickly as he could, not daring to move forward to the terrifying forest again. At the same time, Gawain not only did not hesitate at all, but walked toward the forest with a firm and brave demeanor. But while walking, he did not see the legendary Green Church. But at this moment, he found a cleft and cave overgrown with the tall grass, and firmly believed that it was a Green Church. Then Gawain also walked toward the cave in front of him with a weapon in hand. In the process, he also heard the terrible sound of sharpening knives. At this time, Gawain was even more frightened and thought that his doom was coming. But the heroic Gawain still stayed calm.
I came to find the Lord of this place, and I also came to fulfill the agreement.
Soon after, the Lord of the Green Church, the Green Knight, appeared from around the cliff, holding a Danish axe, and praised Gawain for his punctuality. And the Green Knight told Gawain that he would keep his agreement with Gawain a year ago. At this time, Gawain was extremely frightened, but he still showed a fearless appearance because he would face the fatal blow. Then the Green Knight raised his axe and made a downward swing. And at this time, the Green Knight also saw Gawain's retreat and mocked.
Your behavior is not as brave as your reputation.
Of course, at this time, Gawain swore to the Green Knight and said,
You swing the axe down now. I won't back down again.
Then the Green Knight swung the axe down hard, but this did not seem to cause damage to Gawain, and only left some minor scars. Gawain, who did not know anything at this time, turned to the Green Knight and told him that he had withstood the promised blow. The Green Knight also very gratefully satisfied the terms of the covenant, but he refused Gawain's offer of battle. And he also revealed to Gawain that he was the owner of the castle. In addition, the Green Knight also praised Gawain's bravery and called him the most commendable knight under Arthur. And at this time, Gawain also tried to his best to get the trust of the castle's owner, the Green Knight again. Then the Green Knight also smiled and replied,
I have forgiven you because you are also fully aware of your own mistakes.
At this time, the Green Knight also mentioned to Gawain that he would give him the green belt. In addition, the Green Knight invited Gawain to return to the castle and stay for a while, but Gawain refused. Just before leaving the Green Church, Gawain expressed his blessing to the Green Knight and the Green Knight's wife and the old woman. But at this time, Gawain asked the Green Knight to reveal his name to him, and the Knight agrees and reveals himself as Protector Hadassah, servant of Margaret Lafayette, who is the old woman in the castle. And Lafayette is also Gawain's aunt and Arthur's half-sister. She also said that she sometimes helps Arthur and sometimes causes trouble for Arthur. Not only that, Berthilde also revealed that he was Lafayette who sent him to Camelot, disguised as the Green Knight. On the way back to Arthur's castle, Gawain went through the walls of the wood once more. The wood was healed. Then he had bound the bells like a baldric and sandwise as a sash from shoulder to side, lest in a nest loop below his left arm, as a sign that his honor was stained by sin. At this time, Arthur and the people in the court also learned the news of Gawain's upcoming return, and they were all very happy. Then Gawain returned to the palace. The king and queen kissed him happily, and his brothers also surrounded him and excitedly asking him about everything after leaving the palace. However, at this moment, Gawain also showed them the scar on the back of his neck, and this scar also represented his breach of faith. At the same time, Gawain also showed smarting shame on his face. Then Gawain raised the green belt and said,
The symbol of sin, for which my neck bears the scar. It is a sign of my fault, offense, and failure, of the cowardice and covetousness I came to commit. I was tainted by untruth. This is token I will drag across my chest till the day I die.
And at this moment, Arthur and all knights in the court comforted Gawain. In addition, they also wore the same green belts as Gawain to share their support and respect for him, which symbolized the unity of the court.